Welcome to the Bitcoin Business Podcast put on by Sovereign, and I am your host, Brandon Karpolis, this week. Today, I have a special guest with me, David Fraser, who him and his wife run a company called Bunkie Life, and they are a company. I'll let him do a better explanation than I'm going to give here, but essentially they build, I don't know if tiny homes is a pejorative, but smaller homes that are pre-made to go on people's properties that they already own to add an addition on, or if you have a big piece of property and you got a favorite fishing spot or hunting spot or just a place you like to sit and stare at the water or something on your property, these guys will put it together and come out and put it on. And of course, they accept Bitcoin, which is why they're joining us on this podcast. And so, David, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into Bitcoin in the first place, and then why, what your business does and why you started to incorporate that into the business. And were you doing this before and then you became a Bitcoiner, or was it, hey, I got into Bitcoin, this is my passion? Why don't you walk us through how you got here?
Sure. And thanks for having me on the show, Brandon. I appreciate it. So
Of
yeah,
course.
as you said earlier, we make small log cabin kits anyone can build themselves in a weekend. So we kind of make the kit, and generally the homeowner will assemble the kit in their backyard or on a rural property with their friends and family. Probably 85% of our clients will build it themselves, and then for the remainder, they might have a contractor do it. But they're usually like a 1 to 2, maybe 3 day project. And so we've kind of niched on that. We started in Ontario here, which is where we're from, in 2017. And what caused us to get into it is I was at the time having my first daughter. So she came and we had no spare bedroom anymore. We lived in rurally outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And so my mom started texting me, "Oh,
I'm going
hey,
through that right now. So
what's that?"
yeah, I'm going through that right now. I'm sitting in the what used to be a second bedroom and is currently not anymore.
Yeah, so
So
you get the exact dilemma I was in, and my mom started going, "I can't sleep on the couch anymore," So I started
yep.
looking into tiny homes, which are kind of like a self-contained thing. I looked into yurts, looked into tents, I looked into like trailers and things like that, and stumbled upon the idea of a bunkie because it was like a bolt-on bedroom essentially. We didn't need to do a big addition, we didn't need to run plumbing, so for us it was just uh, we ran a electrical cord out there, but it was basically an extra bedroom in our backyard, and it solved that problem with my mom and dad needing to come play, with a place to stay. And then we started renting it out on Airbnb. And around the same time, I was looking for, what are other ways to more fully utilize my property, but also the income I had. I was a musician at the time, so I wasn't like a super. I did pretty good, but how do I save better? And that's kind of what got me into Bitcoin was the idea that I could save my money and it would actually grow in value as opposed to kind of getting whittled away. And so it was kind of around the same time I got into Bitcoin as I got into Bunkies, and it's kind of evolved together. And people started saying, "Hey, do you accept Bitcoin?" I thought, well, I mean, I'll take any form of money, but I'd love the best form of money. So we've been accepting Bitcoin, I think, since 2018 or 19. So
So when did you get into Bitcoin and this at the same? What year was that?
um, I guess it would have been, well, we built our first Bunkie in 2015, but I did not get into Bitcoin that early, but it was a little bit sometime after that. And probably like yourself, I just kind of dipped my toes in a little bit, and then got more as my knowledge grew, my conviction grew, and my investment grew, and now our company holds most of our balance sheet in Bitcoin, and it's worked out really well, provided you're a profitable company like we are, and you have a longer term horizon. You're not just trying to like get rich this month. That's not a great strategy, but yeah.
And that is really something we stress at Sovereign is we're here to help businesses like yourself that you have a profit, you want to store your money in something better. You don't want to constantly have to grow or constantly have to cut costs just to keep up with the basement. And
Mhm.
um, we're not here to help you do capital market arbitrage. Certainly, we know how to do that thing. But what we're talking about really is true proof of work that you have a product that people value, you put your time and effort into it, and you get a unit of account to store your time and energy that you put into it. And it's obviously not treated with respect by the people who administer that unit of account. And I love to hear it when people like yourself are say, no, I'm going to store my time and energy in something that holds its value. So I I so was Bunkie, forgive my ignorance on this. I have no idea. I have never even I knew the general concept, and actually, I'm friends with Rev Hoddle, who had built something like this on his own property. He also has a yurt for his homestead, and so I knew of the general concept. But it sounds like almost a decade ago, you were aware of this sort of bunkie concept. Was this just something you did on your own, or how did you even find out about
Yeah,
this
so
thing?
the etymology of bunkie is pretty interesting. It's actually a Ontario term. It seems like it started in Muskoka area, which is kind of like our Hamptons. And so
Interesting.
bunkhouse, like it's like kind of like like I said earlier, a bedroom you throw in the backyard. You might put a couple bunk beds in there, whatever. It's just like overflow. That's like the 85% of our clients will use it for that. Some people do buy bunkies, kind of turn them into tiny homes. A lot of people are using them for Airbnb type like income potential, like I did originally as well. So it's all over the map. But bunkie, that term, we've kind of as we've grown across first across Canada and now across North America into the U.S., kind of been building that term out in front of us too. So the average Joe and Josephine has never heard of a bunkie unless they're maybe in Ontario or BC, different parts of Canada where as we're getting more well known, the term's growing too. But it's not a ubiquitous term. It means apparently in southern states it means like your cellmate in jail. So we're fighting that use case or that.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's all sorts of slang for bunkie here in the United States that has nothing to do with a beautiful wood home on a piece
Right.
of property.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's awesome. So, uh, I didn't realize it was a regional colloquialism that hadn't made its way down here. So that's fascinating. So uh, along those lines, is as I was saying earlier, is the I gotta know is the phrase like tiny home, is that a pejorative? Do we try to is that like a used car versus a previously owned? Are we trying to stay away from that? Or
Yeah, well, we've niched in really selectively and stuff that's small if you don't need a permit to build in most areas, and or we've got a model that will fit underneath your local area. So in Ontario here, for example, it's like 107 square feet of a footprint. You go under that, you usually don't need a permit. In most places in Canada, it's like around there. I've noticed a lot of U.S. states and counties have like a 199 square foot kind of limit. So we kind of niched there. And like I said, some people do use them for tiny homes, but generally speaking, it's like extra space. Whereas a tiny home is usually a self-contained. It's got a kitchen, it's got a bathroom, it's got wiring, it's got plumbing. And I mean, I'm all for tiny homes. I think it's a great concept. It's just that um, what most people find is actually it's not the ability to build that thing. It's the ability to do that and live in it full time and not get shut down by your local mafia. So we've niched hard into the don't need a permit size. Your use case is probably not 4 seasons, it's probably 3 seasons, whatever. And that niche has been awesome because we don't interact with the government very often. And so we say to the homeowner, hey, what you do with our kit, that's up to you. It's like you bought a shell of a building and have at her, and we have a don't ask, don't tell policy. And there's some counties like in Texas, do whatever you want, right? It's like completely freedom. There's lots of places in Tennessee that are like that, and even other counties and little pockets around the country. But what we just make a great product that is engineered to building code if you need to bring it up to a tiny home, but we're selling you the shell. And then the tiny home concept, I've just noticed like there's been a lot of companies come in and out of business even in the short 10 years we've been around. So it seems like a really it's a category where there's tons of demand. People need affordable small houses, and yet due to mostly due to government red tape, it's really hard to actually pull that off in the marketplace in a profitable way. That's just my own personal observations, and obviously I'm not in the actual tiny home space, so I don't. That's just been my
well,
observations.
I was told the reason we have all these homeless people is because no one will build the houses. So you're you're saying there might be a problem with some regulation, and well, I mean, obviously it's a lie as to the root cause of the homeless problem, but that's a separate
Yeah,
issue.
there's a larger set of incentives, and once again, I'm an amateur. I'm just a guy that makes bunkies, right? But if your money is being stored in your house, and there's a lot of incentives like the capital gains exemptions you get from selling your primary residence, that's huge in Canada, and it's also factor in the US. So it's incentivizing you to build the biggest store of wealth that you can, i.e., the biggest amount of square footage. So the trend is to build these big McMansions, as opposed to what it was 100 years ago when you just build what you actually needed. And so I think that effect is percolating through the market where there's all these enormous houses that you don't really need and that millennials and younger can't afford, and a lot of red tape to prevent you from building these little like relatively affordable houses because you need to make sure you have all these building code things that make sense for a huge house but don't really apply to a small house or shouldn't apply to a small house. But that's
Yeah,
just
I
my
mean,
2 cents. What do I know?
no, it's listen. I think anyone that's alive can see it firsthand. I mean, it's no secret all the red tape you have to go through and just check this box, check that box. I mean, they make it impossible to do any of this stuff, and a lot of it's just completely irrational. It's just them saying, "I'm in charge here. Sorry, I don't. Oh, our building office signed off on these specs. Yeah, well, guess what? That wasn't me that signed off, and I don't really care. So you're going to do this." And there's definitely a power trip, authoritarian element to it as well. Lest the COVID experiment gave anyone any doubts whether humans wanted to lord over other people or not. But that is certainly a big part of it. But okay, so yeah, I'm curious. So I mean, I gotta know. You said what's the bathroom situation in here? So
Yeah, so I mean, we sell a kit. Some people will add little composting toilets or little kitchenette or little, even stand-up shower, three-piece bathrooms. They add those in. Most areas I've discovered, like if you add plumbing, you're definitely straight into permit required land.
yeah,
But there are kind of ways around that, like outdoor kind of self-contained shower, little self-contained sink pedestal type things, and little composting toilets are kind of a workaround that some people have pulled off. But like I said, I mean, most people, it's like I've got the house or I've got the cottage, and this is like overflow. It's cool if they use the kitchen inside. It's cool if they use the bathroom inside. It's just a sleeping
yeah,
space. So 85% of people are not using it as like needing a bathroom, and then for the some that are, there's some workarounds, or they just go ahead and get the permit. Like you can get permits for these things. We have the drawings and all those things are available. So if you want to go that route, it's just it usually opens up this enormous can of worms, like we alluded to earlier.
or I mean, if you're like me, I mean, as a male, going outside on your property and just enjoying relieving yourself on a nice night. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a few things more relaxing and calming than that.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's always an option as well. So awesome. So are you selling more of these in sort of like residential areas? Would you say it's more sort of suburban or more rural? What have you been finding on that
Definitely
front?
rural. So we tend to our kind of target market is like they live in the city maybe, but they've got this like second property out in the boonies, and that's who we're generally selling to. It's like people that love family, people that love the outdoors, and people that want to have a full house that or a full property they can have everybody come together on Labor Day weekend or Thanksgiving or whatever the case may be. They want to be able to have everyone together. And so a lot of times the bunkie is the bridge between family members being able to come and be all together or not, or people sleeping on the ground or like on the pull-out sofa and watching your daughter's boyfriend wake up in his underwear or not.
Yeah, that's no one likes that. That so I'm just picturing a bunch of Bitcoiners like, oh, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, I'm getting my Citadel, I'm getting a bunch of land out there. And have you found people that are? I mean, to me, I'll like one day, years down the road or something. It's like I want a big plot of land. I want a river through it that I can fish on. And it's like I would love to just like put something like this, right by my favorite fishing hole or something like that. Or do you find people doing that
Yeah,
as well? Or,
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Since we started accepting Bitcoin, which is probably, I don't know, a while ago, there's been people buying it for that kind of exact reason. You get a rural property that nobody cares about. You can start building your kind of plan B or C option or just your getaway. So it can kind of serve a couple different purposes. You can have it as a kind of backup. Like maybe you eventually want to build an actual full on house on this property, but why not use it in the 10 years as you're saving up for that and building towards that ultimate goal and just have a little cabin you can go to. So that's pretty common amongst our client base, and a lot of them are Bitcoiner type folks. And yeah,
But so, um, what what percentage of your clients would you say are paying in Bitcoin?
still pretty small. It's probably 1% right now, maybe
Okay.
even a little less, maybe like 0.5%. We're a normie business. We market to the average Joe and Josephine, um, and it's just an option there at the checkout kind of thing. So and sometimes people will say, "Oh, I'd like to pay in Bitcoin," and then maybe they'll put down partly in Bitcoin, partly in cash, depending where they're at. And also, I notice it really depends on what phase of the cycle we're into. You know,
Oh yeah,
people start feeling really
absolutely.
good around about a month or two from now. People get pumped,
Yeah,
and then the bear market. I mean, no one wants to get rid of their Bitcoin then. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. No one wants to part at those prices.
yep.
So you're a Canadian company, like you said. How much of your business is in Canada versus the
It
U.S.?
was like 99-1, but over the last couple of years, it's been more like 70-30 Canadian versus American. And our biggest area of growth is in the US right now, big time. So I think we shipped to 40 different US states last year.
Wow.
So it's becoming quite a large portion of what we do.
Okay, so yeah, so walk me through the process from start to I decide I want one of these things. Okay, I'm on the website. Um, what am I looking at? What's the price point? How does it all go? Soup to nuts.
Sure. So for our kits, we got a little bathroom bunkie, but excluding that one, our actual kits are about 6K to about 24K. There might be some shipping charges potentially on where you are. Sometimes we have free shipping or just cheap shipping options depending on the season. So essentially, what I'd recommend is check out the website, see if one of those models work for you guys, and then reach out to us through a contact form or give us a call. Usually, we want to chat through what your plans are, at least for 10-15 minutes. Make sure it is the right fit and you have realistic expectations of what the product is, and talk about timelines. Right now, we're kind of about 9 to 10 weeks behind, but we can often be, we can get a bunkie sometimes to people within that week. Just depends on where we're at production wise. It's peak season right now, middle of the summer. And so it depends on where we're at. But over the next year, we're hoping to have enough kind of built up inventory that we won't have this huge backlog anymore. So, you order a bunkie, we ask for a deposit, about half, a little more than half. We'll start making the bunkie for you. We make it in our factory in Ontario, Canada, and then ship it directly to your door in a lot of cases, or sometimes it makes more sense to ship it to like a local depot where you'll pick it up. And so we'll work out those logistics side of things, send you anything you need to do on your end to get ready for the bunkie. So if you want to prepare a foundation, we can send you some options so that when the bunkie shows up, you're ready to go and you can build it, that weekend if you can.
Okay, so the individual would be responsible for pouring a foundation or
Yeah,
something
but although
like
you
that.
don't necessarily need to do the full on foundation, less times you can just put down patio stones or like a little deck frame. So there's 3 or 4 different options to pull off the foundation. I've got mine all up on basically cinder blocks. They've been there for almost 10 years now.
Nice. So, I assume you have to deal a lot with Canadian and US dollar foreign exchange. And so I'm sure that's fun, but has Bitcoin sort of helped you out in that? And obviously saving in that on your balance sheet. Um, I guess just maybe talk about how you've integrated Bitcoin and how it's benefited you holding it as a treasury asset and instead of either one of the terrible currencies
Yeah.
that you have to deal in.
Yeah, it's been really great. So during our first factory purchase, we had been hodling Bitcoin as a company, and kind of gave us a nice stability to be able to purchase a factory and kind of get through that first year of opening a factory is the worst ever. Like never do it. Um, we're doing it again, but
Whatever your cost projections are, just add like 100%.
exactly. And in fact, and then cut your income by about 50, and that's what we did, and it's still. But we survived for year one, and a lot of it was because I had the confidence knowing, hey, we've got this backup supply of money. I hope I don't have to ever spend it, but we've got this kind of stockpile of cash that really, I don't know how companies do it without Bitcoin, to be honest. So it added a lot of stability to what was a pretty tumultuous year. We're actually looking pretty seriously at land in the U.S. right now, around Tennessee, Memphis area, and repeating the whole process there with a second factory. So It adds stability. We were actually able to borrow on some of the Bitcoin for a short period of time to kind of bridge the some purchases with when the actual mortgage came through. So it enabled us to do stuff way faster because we could just pay cash for stuff. Um, and uh, at the time, I think it mitigated risk in a big way for us, and just allowed us to confidently go, hey, we can afford this, we can do this. And then accepting payments in Bitcoin, we just try to never sell that. So it's pretty cool to look at the Bunkie we sold 5 years ago for 10 grand. That's now worth substantially more, sitting on the balance sheet.
Yeah, and yeah, when you receive those payments in Bitcoin, I mean, you brought up such a good point there that it provided this safety net, and I don't understand how, or you don't understand how businesses can get by without Bitcoin. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. By my former life that I came from, I would see these businesses, and a big part of why I joined Sovereign was because I would watch them, and they wouldn't have a safety net, and they would not have any financial security, and it was just constant stress. And it was because they didn't have something like Bitcoin to provide them some extra runway. And I mean, just me and my own personal life, I walked away from my former job because I had Bitcoin, because I had my savings in Bitcoin. And I'm like, I hope I never have to use this. I don't think I'm going to, but if I do, I can borrow against it. I could sell a little bit of it, and like I'll be able to get by. And I think, obviously we talk all the time about Bitcoin fixes this, and it changes incentives, and it changes the way you look at things. And there's a lot of overt uh, um, places where that's going to happen, and it's just the incentives are very obvious in front of you. But something I've been focusing on and thinking about a lot is sort of the psychological, undisclosed, not undisclosed, but non-stated uh, benefits that come from just knowing that, like, hey, I can take a risk on this. I can go do so. That would never happen if you're saving in fiat money, if you're saving in fiat currency. The ability to innovate, the ability to present new new products, new offerings, to do something in your business you wouldn't otherwise do. It's almost like in having this super stable currency that's not stable at all. It's depreciating every single year. But when you try to take the volatility out of things, you actually stifle liveliness and innovation and experimentation. And that's exactly what's happened. And there's so many of these businesses that probably should be innovating, could be innovating, and who knows what lack of products, even some of the products you're putting out to market, maybe that would have never been out to market. Maybe this opportunity wouldn't have been available to people in Canada or the United States if you, and especially in the United States, if you didn't have Bitcoin as your backstop, as your safety net.
Yeah, the thing about having a, a money you can save in, right? That you can, over the longer period of time, go, yeah, it's probably going to be worth more in 4 or 5 years. It recalibrates what an entrepreneurial risk looks like, because these little incremental things like taking on more debt to blah 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 blah, blah doesn't look very attractive as much, as like bigger, maybe more difficult, maybe even slightly riskier moves that are actually going to move the needle in Bitcoin terms. So if you're measuring yourself against a depreciating crap fiat Canadian dollar, it's not that hard to win. If you're going to measure your winning against what would happen if I just held Bitcoin, the bar is so much higher, right? And so it forces like little incremental kind of BS moves that you can do business wise that might like juice the bottom line a little bit, or in a lot of cases the top line and not even affect the bottom line. Those are moves you can make, but then you go, well, why would I do that versus like taking a big swing here that could actually result in more Bitcoin. Um, so so you take more calculated, bigger risks, knowing that you've got a pretty high bar to try to beat a return on Bitcoin. If you just look at completely the business from a completely financial perspective, which we don't. We also have we love what we do. We love the people we do it for. Dimension, and also you can't just sit around and do nothing and just count your gains all day. You got to go and do things with your life. But it does make that financial hurdle so much higher and so much more astute, that you have to come to terms with that reality and go like, yeah, like borrowing more money to like get a slightly like to arbitrage a slightly better thing is like it's just not that interesting when you measure it against the potential gains in Bitcoin. So you have to make like actual like massively value producing moves in the business to justify doing it versus just let's just do nothing. If that makes sense.
Of course, it's actually I'm glad you said that because I've kind of had those two separate thoughts at the same time, but I've never really married them in that having Bitcoin on the balance sheet allows you to take these bigger risks like we talked about. At the same time, if you don't have Bitcoin, you're stuck doing all this little trivial nonsense. It's where you try to take these small edges and these small gains just to eke out a little more. And when you're holding Bitcoin, not only does that not make sense, but you completely evaluate that in a different light. Like, hey, I have my arbitrage against the dollar. My arbitrage against the dollar is not trying to get another 2% out of my profit margins. It's holding a different unit of account. And I never kind of put those two together. And then at the same time, it's like for me to take something on is really going to have to be worth it. And so you kind of cast aside all this worthless nickel and diming and focus really only on the stuff that is actually innovative and will bring actual value to the company.
Yeah, or what's going to be a badass story at the end of the day, like because you know, um, you know, like starting a factory in Ontario was insane at the time. It worked out for us, but it's a cool story at the very least. Even if it had completely failed, it would have been a cool story. And same thing with as we expand in the U.S. Like, it's going to be a badass story. Whether or not I would have been better just putting all the money into Bitcoin and not, time will tell. However, you're able to make those like calculations because you have a little bit of breathing room and go, okay, like we've got our oxygen mask on ourselves as a business and personally now we can look around for like how do we take an educated cut and an educated swing at providing something really substantial in the marketplace.
I do think there is something lost though on people in the Bitcoin space. And yes, it is important. Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. You should only be deploying your capital into things that return more than Bitcoin. I understand all that. At the same time, if you have a business with positive sats flow, then that business 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, if you give it to your kids, if you give it to the next generation and you continue doing what you're doing, will actually be a better investment than potential because at some point Bitcoin's return is going to trend to zero at some point. I don't know when that is. Maybe it's not for a very long time. But if you're having a business that is actually profitable, where you're actually generating, and when the actual holding of money, holding at some point in the future, the holding of Bitcoin will trend to zero or trend to a small amount, 2%, 3%, whatever sort of the annual productivity growth rate is. That if you have a business that's actually producing positive cash flows and generating profit, that at that point it will actually be better. Now,
Yeah,
that's
where's that point as well? Like I've had this conversation with Jeff Booth. He spoke at an event and we had a little bit of an exchange. And you know, the question I posed there was like, it looks like the market, like if you look back 10 years or even 5 years, the marketplace really rewarded anyone who essentially sold everything they had, went up onto the hilltop and just waited for the gains to float down from heaven, right? It's really, really hard to beat that hurdle rate if you look back historically over a 5 or greater year period. Um, but what if everyone just sold all their crap and bought Bitcoin and we'd have no factories, we'd have no food, right? And at what point is that crossover happen where all of a sudden the value that you're creating in your business or your portfolio of businesses or whatever is adding more value than just selling it all and buying Bitcoin? And like, I don't know the answer to that. So I had to rely on the what's going to be a badass story to tell my grandkids. That's where I've leaned but having a stable stack of solid like Bitcoin to fall back on enables that crazy leap as well.
Yeah. It sucks to be in this transition period. I mean, it's super cool to be in this transition period, and it's awesome and being in at the ground floor. I mean, it's mind blowing, really. at the same time, it's like you really, I mean, like the Wittgenstein's ruler is real. Like you can't make appropriate economic calculations into the future. Like we don't know,
Yeah.
what's going to go on with the money, and obviously now the best move is to just hold your Bitcoin and you'll be rewarded for that. There's no doubt about it. As we watch the monetization, but it is wild to think that we're basically slogging through this period with imperfect information about the money supply to try to figure out sort of what our businesses should look like in the future, and it's basically impossible.
It is quite
It's
hard.
so
Yeah, but it's fun.
yeah,
It's really fun. And
yeah.
I mean, the people that mortgage their life, their kids, and their kids' kidneys, and their kids, kids' grandkids. I mean, they did pretty well. And I've had these conversations with other Bitcoiners too. It's like, but you know, you're also rewarding a little bit of speculative gambling to a certain extent too. By like everyone always says, well, the lottery, right, is a great example. Like play the lottery, $10 for a dream, right? And it's always like, that's kind of the lottery mentality. But then my question is always like, well, what if you won? Because you could win the lottery and you'd make millions of dollars or whatever it is, but like you didn't earn it. You didn't actually like provide the commensurate value to the marketplace and to the world. You didn't up level yourself to the skills that you needed to do to actually like be responsible for that much cash. And so the people that win the lottery tend to be way worse off. And I think also like the people that and would have no intelligence to say who is in what camp, but the people have completely speculated and just like bet the farm on immediate appreciation and won the lottery without the commensurate amount of like value added to the marketplace and skill set. And like I think that it might be a little bit like the dejected lottery winners that end up in a bad spot even when they win.
I mean, there's so many cases of Bitcoiners who have just gone off the rail, who got in super early, who maybe didn't have the best understanding of what they were buying, and yeah, they essentially hit the lottery without having the foundation. And it does take the 1,000 hours or however many hours of studying, and that is a huge part of what we're trying to do at Sovereign. Is we're getting some people where they're like, okay, I need to get in on this Bitcoin thing. It's all the chatter, blah blah blah, and it's like, help me get up to speed. Help me get some of this. Help me hold some of this. And it's like, hold on, let's take a step back. Let's make sure you understand the fundamentals here, because at some point there's going to be a drawdown. You're going to freak out. You're going to try to sell it, and like the value accrual to your business or accretion to your business by holding this in the treasury, you need to understand it. And only then will you be able to make appropriate decisions with allocating your capital. Because if you don't understand it, if you don't put the time in, or let us at Sovereign put the time in for you to help you understand this, you're going to completely fritter it all away, exactly like you said,
Yeah.
because you didn't understand it, you didn't quote unquote earn it, and I mean, I think they used to have a show of like, where are they now, of lottery winners, and all of them were just destitute and
Yeah.
living in the Salvation Army or something.
Yeah, because the other side of that exact coin that you're describing there is okay. So you bet the farm, or you don't put in the work, right? The educational work, the personal work that you need to handle tens of millions of dollars. You don't put that in, and then let's say you're the other side of that, where you just buy and it pumps, right? And next thing you know, you're a multimillionaire. The exact same thing could occur, like whether you lose the money or not, but you become a human being with millions of dollars that should have probably not been given that much responsibility, if that makes sense, right? And that
Yeah,
can be like you said, there's a lot of destitute, people with three teeth in their mouth at the end of the whole ride. And that's an understated downside, I think, as well. As much as we always go, well, make sure you're ready for that 80%, slap in the face that's coming. There's also, what if it pumps 400% and you can't handle that? That's a reality of a lot of people's existence too. I think what I like about the general, like if we're talking about the Bitcoin maxi ethos, it's like stay humble, stack sats, add value to the world, be profitable on the personal level, be profitable on the business level, and get rich slowly. and
Yes,
and and,
exactly.
and learn how to handle that over time.
Yeah, it's so important. I stay humble, stack sats is just it's the best. It's the best. I think it's my favorite phrase in that and TikTok next block. I think are
Yeah,
my
yeah.
two favorite when phrases because it just perfectly sums up everything. Like this thing is marching forward. It doesn't care, and it's just going to be here. And it doesn't matter what politicians do, what you do, anything. It just the next block is coming, and the what you need to do to take advantage of that is to just, like you said, add value, store your time and energy in a better money, and just stay humble. I mean, it's so true. I The simple axioms are always the best. So
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, okay, so all right, back to the company here. So what I mean, you guys are talking about expanding to Nashville. How many people do you employ now? Or are you gonna
So
expand
yeah,
your
there's
pool?
42 of us across, well, Canada and the USA. We're mostly a remote team on the brand side, so we have like our marketing and sales and customer services remote-ish, and then we have about 20 individuals working at the factory making the bunkies in Canada here. So, in the roadmap, it'll probably be 10 to 20 people as soon as we get the factory up, probably in 2026 or 2027. And then just we're going to be that's where the most expansion is probably going to happen. We'll probably stay similar on the Canadian side and then just grow the American side as we're scaling up demand.
Awesome. So are you sort of ingratiated yet with the Nashville Bitcoin community down
No,
there?
I've
And
been to Nashville a bunch of times, but this is prior to my Bitcoin life. And I'm thinking to be more like Memphis area, which isn't too far from Nashville, but
okay.
we're looking kind of
I guess
zooming
I
in. Yeah,
I guess I just assumed Nashville. You did say Tennessee. I kind of
yeah,
just
I
went
love
right to
Nashville a lot. I used to be a professional musician. It's a near and dear to my heart, that place for sure.
turns out they have other cities in that state. So,
Yeah,
all right, I'm a huge music fan. I always joke that I have three types of T-shirts. I have Bitcoin shirts, I have food shirts, and I have music shirts.
yeah.
So that's it. And so, what kind of band were you in? What did you play?
So I used to. So this is prior to Bunkie Life, but I used to travel and play pubs in mostly Ontario. I traveled around and played some of my own songs. It was kind of like singer songwriter acoustic music, and I'd play 4 hour set usually every night, playing a
Oh
mix
wow,
of covers and my own stuff. And then we had a wedding. My wife and I had a wedding band for a while. Just fans would get married and then they want us to play. And then COVID came. Bunkie Life was kind of this weird side project, but it just murdered the live entertainment industry. Just destroyed. We had like 62 weddings on the calendar that year. We did two, so it was a nice pivot that we had Bunkie Life as a backup. So yeah, so that was kind of the professional journey of musicianship, and I still play here every once in a while. I play for live streams for our business now, but it's been a while since I've played a gig.
nice. I had one wedding on the calendar, and it was mine.
Oh,
So that made for a fun 2020. But
yeah,
we made the best.
good for you.
So yeah, we ended up doing something at my in-laws' backyard, and the Polish Catholic Church here in Chicago was gracious enough to actually do the ceremony for us, and so it worked out. But I mean, it was a massive headache, and then we had all the contracts were already signed before it, and just renegotiating all that. It
Oh
was
man,
such
yeah, it
a
was a nightmare. Yeah.
yeah. So all right, who's either your favorite singer songwriter or the one that you like to play the most?
Oh man, check
What
out this.
what
Yeah, check out this Canadian guy, Donovan Woods. Have you heard of him yet?
Donovan Woods? I
I
haven't.
think we grew up together. He's a little older than me, but I think he grew up in like the hometown, the big hometown next to my hometown. Um, are you sentimental guy? Do you like singer songwriter stuff? Are you sentimental at all, Brandon?
I mean, like Tyler Childers was one of my favorite
Okay,
artists.
cool. Check out
Yeah.
Donovan Woods. There's a song called Next Year. If you got kids yet?
One just had my first one
Okay,
six
dude,
months
check
ago.
out Next Year. Donovan Woods. Any of his stuff is like brilliant.
I'm on.
Yeah, very, very good singer songwriter guy that I'm into. Kind of yeah, just like singer songwriter acoustic stuff for sure. I'm beginning to Albert. This is not a new artist, but Albert King. I went down the
Oh,
whole BB. I love BB King, but I didn't really understand Albert King until more recently. I'm getting into him right now. I like good blues
A huge
music. Yeah,
huge Albert King fan. Stevie Ray Vaughan's my favorite
yeah, Stevie
artist
Ray
of all.
Vaughan. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so he led me kind of to Albert King. That live session album they have, the Albert King Stevie Ray Vaughan, is probably one of my favorite albums ever. So
Yeah, I got to get into that. Like I've always loved Stevie Ray Vaughan, and like BB King though is like still. I mean, I'm still the way he plays guitar is kind of speaks to me. But
did,
yeah,
did you ever did you ever get to see BB play?
no, I never did. That's a regret I had. My bass player from one of the bands I was in was like, I just saw him. He's like, this is a while ago. He's like, yeah, he talks more than he plays now. But I was actually looking at tickets, and then COVID hit, and and then he died. So yeah, don't live in regret.
Yeah,
I'd say. Yeah,
I saw him earlier in his career, probably like in his 70s, and yeah, it was much more music. And then at the end, I mean, I saw him. I think he died at like 90 or something. I remember at the end, yeah, he would just be up there talking. Buddy Guy's doing the same thing now too.
yeah,
Like Buddy's music to talking ratio has dramatically decreased.
that's
So
fair. I mean, it's like watching a legend. Like I've seen Dave Brubeck play. He's another jazz musician I'm a fan of, and
yeah,
like, I mean, like just to play that for that long at that level. I mean, you gotta wind it down a little bit. You gotta, but it's just like being in the presence of someone that's that accomplished, and it's just the arc of their career has been so wide and so vast. It's you can put up with
yeah,
these stories.
you start losing it a little bit. I remember we were at the Crossroads Guitar Fest. They did it in Chicago in 2007, and Derek Trucks went up on stage with Eric Clapton and absolutely embarrassed Eric Clapton. It was like Eric Clapton couldn't even play the guitar next to this guy. It was crazy. It was shocking to see. Like, I mean, in my opinion, Clapton's probably like top five guitarists ever, and this younger guy at the time, Derek Trucks, was just absolutely showing him up
Yeah,
100% of it.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's like
Awesome.
at that level, you're an athlete. Like you just can't, at
No,
80 years old, like yeah,
yeah, you get well. That's the great thing, right? About like stand up comedy, musicianship, being an entertainment. Like you can still do it.
yeah,
Uh, Sports, you just get run out of town. It's like
yeah,
no mas.
yeah.
So
That's true. That's true.
yeah. So, all right. What's next? Are you like actively going out and trying to go out to Bitcoiners, the Bitcoin community, letting them know this is out there? What's kind
We
of
never
the
have
the
like we've. So I did a podcast with Cedric Youngelman one time.
yeah
That was really cool. He was really gracious. This was when back. This is a while ago. And I thought about separating the business into like Bitcoin wing of it, and then Bunkie Life as like this more normie side. I'm realizing like that didn't really. That wasn't. I think like I mean a lot's changed politically since then too. But I think you just have one business. We accept Bitcoin, and we are Bitcoiners. I'm orange pilling for sure. My senior leadership team. A lot of our guys in the factory are orange pilled now. So we uh we want to basically be a value producing business that has Bitcoin as one of the strategies that we use ultimately. So I don't really like the idea. I don't love the idea anymore of like splitting it up into two weird things. So I never really advertised Bunkie Life on any Bitcoin podcast or anything other than I was on Cedric's show as a dude, and talked a little bit about the old concept of I called it Citadel cabins. But I think the product itself kind of lends itself to that ethos for sure. So a lot of Bitcoiners are finding us, and then they're pumped when they see we accept Bitcoin, and they kind of just, if you know, kind of uh, dimension to our business for sure.
that's what I was going to ask you is do you have buy-in from the rest of the people? Do the rest of the people at your company think you're doing the right thing? Do they understand it? Do you get pushback?
Well, yeah, but I think it's good to have pushback. Like, I mean, you got to always be re-examining your strategy. So, like, our director of finance, I'm orange pilling her slowly. It's been 3 4 years now, 3 years probably. Um, but I've had like So we have about once a year, I'll have a presentation. Somebody come in, like Bitcoin advisor group came in one time and talked to just our kind of our little team, and then our vendors. I invited vendors out. Last month or 2 months ago, we had Joe. Have you seen the what is the what's the problem video? It's a
Uh,
yeah.
not the Coinbase one, is it?
No, not the Coinbase one.
Uh,
It's what's it called? It's called What's the Problem? It's a guy from the UK, physics guy. Joe Bryan is his name.
I don't think I have.
If you're listening,
All right.
yeah, if you check out theproblem.scoreapp.com, there's the Bunkie Life version of it. But basically, his video, if you type in "What's the problem," Joe Bryan into YouTube, really good, succinct storytelling. Not even orange pilling video, but it's more just about what is the fiat problem, why does it exist. So I think it's the best, in my view, the best explanation of the problem for the average person that I've come across. So I had everyone on our leadership team watch it, and then I invited Joe to come and do a little Zoom session with us for our leadership team. And then now that's recording so that people can go to this website. They can watch Joe's original video, then watch the Q&A we had with them. So just building a bridge, but like ultimately, you know, if people choose to walk over or not, that's cool. Like I'm not going to spend a ton of time um, convincing someone where to spend their money. I mean, I just want them to earn as much as they can, have the business be as profitable as they can, so that um, you know, they can have a good living here. And then if they choose to put it in Bitcoin, I think it's a better move.
Well, that's interesting you say that. That's sort of when people ask what we do at Sovereign. It's like, well, the main parts are we educate you, we help get you up to speed, and then or on holding it, and then we help you integrate it into payments or whatever. But kind of the like sort of down the line step that if we continue to have a relationship, like we would love to come in and talk to your company about the culture of like, hey, this is a low time preference business. We save in Bitcoin because we value you. We're able to pay you maybe a little above market wages, and we want you to be able to participate as well. We would love you to hold Bitcoin because then you're going to be satisfied with your wages here. And a big part of the dissatisfaction with wages these days is it just hasn't kept up with the cost of inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're able to actually take what you earn today and then store it into the future and outpace inflation, it's it is wild. I like the last couple years of my TradFi career, people were like, "Oh, you could go out, you could make so much more money. You should be asking for this raise and this bone." And I was like, "I just don't care. Like, this is good. I'm going to put it in Bitcoin, and in 10 years, it's going to be laughable if I, got an extra 5,000 or $10,000 today. Like, it's all going to be a joke."
Yeah.
And that sort of peace of mind and just like I don't even care. I don't have to worry myself with this. Like having that mentality explained to employees and even potentially, hey, do you want to take a portion of your salary in this? Do you maybe want to have a long-term plan of, something like Unchained where they can set up a Roth IRA for you and you can put money into that? Or my friend John Gordon, he's coming out with an HSA program where you can save in Bitcoin. Like, do you want to explore these? I hate the phrase HR because I want HR to go away and
Yeah.
never have an HR department in any business again. But these sort
Yeah.
of, HR benefit uh, options and items, like could we incorporate Bitcoin into that and explain that to the people at the company of how that may benefit you and why we want to present you with those options because we value you as a person and as an individual, not just as some cog in the wheel, the next piece of labor on some spreadsheet.
Yeah. 100% agree. And it has to be both top down and bottom up to really transform that thing. And I'm in this business for the long haul, and I'm hoping that we're trying to play long term games with long term people at Bunkie Life for sure. And so it really matches. What I found is the best employees are receptive to it, and they're actually starting to save in Bitcoin. And then the conversations you have with them just take on a different dynamic. We have a lot of younger guys and girls that work at the factory, so it skews younger. And there's this really sharp dividing line. It's around age 35 to 40, somewhere along there. Anyone under the age of that does not own a home. Anyone above that, they usually do. And it's completely unfair. But on the same level, it's like, okay, well, we didn't get that opportunity as the younger guys. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm straddling that age category, but we
Me
may
too.
we may or may not have got that opportunity on the real estate side of things, which is how the boomers made all their money and they look like geniuses because they bought a house one time. But we also were right in the sweet spot for when Bitcoin was starting its ascent. So maybe home ownership in that dream is something that made sense at the time, but now it's like, hey, you can maybe get to half a Bitcoin. I mean, that's doable still, hopefully, for the people that are working for us, or maybe even 1/10 of the Bitcoin might be a game changing amount of money in 20 years. So I think that those conversations can't even start until they like get $50 in and start thinking about where could this go. So it has to start from the individual choice level, but also like I'm trying to make it sure that make it easy for them to like say at least Dave tried.
Yeah.
I can wipe my conscience clear, especially with my leadership team. Like, hey guys, like we brought in this guy Joe Bryan. The sovereign people were talking to us. Like we had other people come in. Like yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe one day down the road we can come in and have those conversations with people. I mean, it was what we love to do here, and exactly like you said, you got to create the environment to where it fosters people's desire to explore this more, to understand it, and yeah, to your point, um, that's the best thing that people are going to be able to do, and I would argue that buying a house right now is for anything other than consumption value, for its or utility value, whatever you want to call it, its actual use to live in and raise a family in. Anything other than that, if you're trying to have it be some sort of monetary savings or monetary premium play, like in my mind, that is a fool's errand right now. Like that is a really, really bad choice. You should be, evaluating your house only on what do I need it for, and not how do I save with this. And
yeah,
maybe it will actually be a blessing in disguise that a lot of people, younger than you and myself are forced to say, well, okay, maybe I can't buy a home, but I can get $5,000 of Bitcoin right now, and they're almost like forced to have that be their savings as opposed to a house that might have been their savings 20 or
yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, because the I was looking at some charts and like the real appreciation in Bitcoin or sorry in housing is basically mirrored the inflation of the monetary supply. Like it's almost the same chart. So the reason people win in real estate right now is they take on leverage in the form of a mortgage, and that your return on cash is like so much higher because of that leverage, which is great until the prices go the opposite way. In which case that leverage is now punishing you, and you can get bad fast. We've never experienced that, at least in my lifetime in a serious way. But that could happen. So
Well, it's been a good Ponzi scheme, I mean, the mortgage the mortgage program in this country is just a giant Ponzi where you're just rolling over, no, not rolling over, but you're just pulling forward future earnings to basically subsidize the current mortgage market, and the Ponzi hasn't ended yet, so it seems like it's still a good opportunity, but at some point, we as Bitcoiners, we all know the Ponzi is going to end. It always ends. It's how every fiat currency ends. This one will be no exception. And we just haven't hit the end of the Ponzi yet. So taking on a mortgage um, before the Ponzi ends is actually a pretty good investment. I mean, obviously not as good as Bitcoin, but it will it will at least kind of preserve your purchasing power at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah, and to whatever extent the housing Ponzi scheme exists in America, just times that by five in Canada. It's our entire friggin' GDP. It's everything here in Canada. Uh, Under no circumstance
Australia is
can
like
the
the same, I think.
yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I mean, it's just wild seeing all of this, all the monetary premium build up in these assets just simply because we can't have state money. But yeah, to your point, that's going to demonetize one day, and that's going to be a massive shock to the system. And there's going to be a lot of people that are very upset that they took out 90% leverage to buy a bigger house than they needed or wanted because they thought it would hold on to some value 20 years from now. So
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but when you completely reset society and the monetary base of society, it's gonna come with some minor disruptions. So
probably.
most likely.
Yeah.
So are you so at the company, uh, are you thinking like do you want to I know potentially Tennessee is next, but do you want to even grow beyond that? Or is this like a model you might want to, I don't want to say franchise out, but sort of uh, I don't even know, license out or just keep going,
Yeah, we,
adding
we
more
are
cities?
getting inquiries from like Mexico and actually Europe and all over the place. Any English speaking world, even sometimes people write us in Spanish about getting a bunkie. So we're hyper focusing on just the North American market right now. It makes the most sense. But they are pretty packable. You can throw them in a shipping container and throw them, deliver them across the world. So, that'll probably come as we get our production online and have the ability to actually have breathing room because we've kind of always had more demand than we've had supply. So if we can solve that problem, then I think there's lots of places in the world that could benefit from the product for sure. So yeah, like I think that's on the roadmap. Probably our 10-year goal will probably involve something outside of North America for sure.
Awesome. And so in Tennessee, you are going to build an actual like production facility, right? Where you're going to make, yeah. So I mean, I guess there's no reason you couldn't replicate that in Mexico or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we know how to start at least one factory. We've done it successfully once, so if we can pull it off a second
I,
time, then yeah,
yeah, I mean, I guess sourcing the lumber and all that stuff is obviously going to be very different. But so along those lines, you something I meant to touch on and forgot to. You brought it up earlier that your vendors about potentially about Bitcoin and what's been the feedback there? Any bites?
like can't think of anyone. Can't think of anyone specifically that we've managed to orange pill in a super serious way, but we've had we've had a good response generally. Like if they trust us, and most of our vendors do because we pay on time, then they'll at least hear you out. And it's hard to know. It's hard to know to what extent it sticks, but we've had a bunch of them have shown up for the Zoom call we had with Joe, so they showed up for that, and that was only a month or two ago. So
Interesting. Did you get any? I'm just curious. Did you get follow up from them or?
it depends on the person because with business owners, you can't really tell them what to do. They're business owners.
Exactly. Yes.
So you guys are probably the same little conundrum. You can kind of lead them to water, and then
Uh,
if you follow up too hard, then you become this annoying guy. Um, so
and you're basically telling them they don't understand something,
I know.
and business do not like to hear that. So
No, but we tend to have pretty awesome vendors. Like our I'm talking about our core crew of like, people who've been working for a long time. But we're in the wood industry and it's like there's people faxing, there's people like, that only work on paper and use some
well, yeah, they
prerequisite.
got. I mean, they need the wood for the paper. They're
Yeah.
they're kind of like supporting themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the most digital industry I haven't found. Some of the lumber mills especially, man, they're like running in 1952 time. Um, so I look at that industry as like, there's gonna be a lot of change over the next probably 20 years. And I think a lot of it's gonna be like I think I'm really excited about eventually buying our own mill because I think we like with some modern technologies, I think you could really do some cool stuff with those like generally mom and poppy kind of businesses that have been in the family for a while and probably need a bit of a shot in the arm. Um,
Yeah.
they're drying
Some
wood. They're drying wood with, in some cases, electrical kilns that which should be Bitcoin miners when you think about it.
yeah.
They're like there's all about the volume. They don't have like there's a lot you could do with an old mill to modernize it and add a lot of value. And I still think Canada is the best wood in the world. I'm a little bit biased, but we don't always present that as anything more than a commodity, and it really could be. So
Yeah. Higher quality. I mean, that's the Bitcoin ethos is the lower your time preference, get the higher quality, and yeah, if you got the better product, and I don't know how it is up in Canada, but they like every 5 years they shave like a 16th of an inch off whatever lumber dimensions they have. We're just gonna have like popsicle sticks
Yeah,
holding
two by
houses up.
fours used to be literally two by fours, but they are not anymore. So
No, not even
yeah,
close.
yeah.
Um, that's hilarious. All right, well, David, I appreciate your time here today. Great talking with you. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up here?
No, we're huge fans of you know Bitcoin, the movement that's creating in the world. It is the change I think that ultimately needs to happen, and it's going to fix a lot of things downstream from it. Our business and my life is one of those things that's fixed, and we love dealing with Bitcoiners because they kind of get that, like they value quality, which is what we sell. So it really works out well. And if you want to find out more, you can go to bunkielife.com. That's bunkielife.com. That's where all of our stuff is, and reach out anytime.
And I mean, that's one of the things we're really trying to highlight here. And we hope, 5, 10 years down the line, it's like, hey, these businesses adopted Bitcoin like yourself. You've been maybe not a fully adopted Bitcoin, but at least involved with it and sort of got the ball rolling 10 years ago. And it's like, look at what it's produced. Look at what we have here 10 years later. Like, let's start looking forward 10 years. That's the point of Bitcoin. That's the point of putting it on your balance sheet. This is how you sustain your business. This is how you keep it going into the future. And like that is so important, exactly what we want to highlight. And it's always awesome talking to people like you who have businesses like this, who have done it, who are the living proof. And this is the living proof that that Bitcoin can sustain you into the future and is the appropriate treasury asset to hold over some depreciating terrible fiat currency.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Brandon. It was a pleasure to chat.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And where can people find you? I know you mentioned the website. Anywhere else? Personal socials, anything like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much at Bunkie Life and all the things. So youtube.com/Bunkie Life, Instagram/Bunkie Life. The only one we couldn't get was TikTok. So it's TikTok at official Bunkie Life or something like that. But all the other ones, if you type in Bunkie Life, were pretty easy to find.
Okay, awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. Wish you and your business the best. Love seeing it, and hope to talk to you soon.
Okay, likewise. Thanks, Brandon.